Hello and welcome to the Park Life Podcast. My name is Mike. I'm a travel agent that specializes in all things Disney. This is episode 57 of the Park Life Podcast, and it's chapter 4 of our series of the history of Walt Disney World. Today's chapter 4 is the expansion and next series of the other parks. So, as we've shared previously in other chapters, the Magic Kingdom was the very first park and it opened in 1971. It stood alone for over 10 years, exactly 11 years to be specific, until the next park in the series opened up. And at that time, that park was called Epcot Center, opened on October 1st, 1982. This park was a idea that Walt Disney himself had. He wanted to open up a city, however, not an amusement park, in the city called Epcot, which stands for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, was going to be a city that people could live, work, and play in. Walt had only planned to open Magic Kingdom as a theme park and then Epcot as a city, allowing the Magic Kingdom to help fund Epcot. Interesting as we look back on what his plans were to what we actually have today. Well, as I shared previously, Walt passed away before the Magic Kingdom even opened, so he never got to see his original park idea, let alone Epcot Center. After his death, the Walt Disney Company met several times discussing Walt's plans and what they thought would make most sense for the company, and they ultimately decided not to go forward with the idea of a city. They just did not want to be in the business of owning, managing, operating a community with people that lived, worked, and played in. So instead, the Walt Disney Company decided to open up the second theme park. And on October 1st, 1982, Epcot Center opened up. The World Showcase, as we know it today, was to become an essential permanent World's Fair. So if you think back in history, the Carousel of Progress at the Magic Kingdom, for instance, was an exhibit that Walt dreamed up, and it was in the 1964 World's Fair. So the Walt Disney Company decided, let's do the World Showcase and have it become a permanent World's Fair. Spaceship Earth, or as my kids have always called it since they were little, the giant golf ball, is the 18-story geodesic sphere that is the icon of Epcot. Now, in the original plans of Epcot Center, the park, not the city or community, the park, the Walt Disney World Company actually planned two different separate parks. The World Showcase was going to be a park in and of itself, and then Future World would be a separate park. But ultimately, as they continued to plan and construction began, they decided to merge the two together, making one theme park, again at that time called Epcot Center. Now, you fast forward to today, Epcot is a flourishing park. Many people consider it to be their number one park at Walt Disney World. Others have it maybe number two. But the one thing that stands out above all else with Epcot is that it has become the cornerstone for festivals. Festival of the Arts is the first one in each calendar year, and it usually starts early to mid January and runs through February. The International Flower and Garden Festival is up next, and that typically runs March, April, and into early June. And then we have the Food and Wine Festival that usually starts in August and runs up to early November. And then last but not least, the Festival of the Holidays, which kicks off the day after Thanksgiving and typically runs through the 30th of December, just ahead of New Year's Eve. Festivals are an amazing opportunity to see all that Walt Disney World can showcase in its different varieties. Arts, as it's defined, is more than I always thought. I'll be honest. I always thought arts would be paintings. It's so much more than that. It's visual art, it's auditory art, it's just a spectacular display of all of the different arts. The Flower and Garden Festival is a beautiful festival. Flowers, attractions, topiaries, a butterfly exhibit, just spectacular colors and great way to wrap up spring and roll into early summer. Food and Wine Festival in the fall is one of the most popular festivals at Epcot and is a favorite for many. They have a wonderful concert series that runs through that as well with some great acts that come into town to participate and perform for guests. And then I think what might be my favorite is the Festival of the Holidays. Christmas in its glory with all of the colors, the lights, the scents, the feels. The World Showcase brings out Christmas in each country as to how they celebrate it with different versions of St. Nicholas or Kris Kringle or Santa Claus, however you like to refer to him. It's an amazing way to wrap up the calendar year. So we're going to take a jump from Epcot, again opening in 1982, leaving Magic Kingdom as the sole park for 11 years, and then it had its partner in Epcot. Those two parks stood alone then for an additional 7 years. And at that time, on May 1st, 1989, Disney's MGM Studios park opened up. Now, if you're not a Disney aficionado, you're probably like, wait a minute, I don't know that park. We'll get to that here in a minute. So, the original idea from the Walt Disney World Company was a theme park and a functioning production studio. At the time, Michael Eisner was the CEO of Disney, and his idea was conceived to beat Universal Studios Orlando to the market with a movie themed park. So there was intent on Disney's part in competition spirit to beat Universal Studios to the punch with a movie themed studio type environment. Attractions like the Great Movie Ride, which is an all time favorite of mine, the Backlot Studio Tours, which again I love that, and then Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. All three of those provided an immersive experience into movie making. I think back to when I was a kid and then a young adult, the um, backlot studio tours on the tram going through the buildings where people were there making costumes. And then you went onto the set of oh, there was a canyon and a whole experience like they were shooting a part of a scene of a movie. I remember it like it was yesterday. I loved that attraction. It was so much fun, interactive, and let's be honest, it was a great way to take a break from all of the walking at the parks. Great Movie Ride was a fan favorite. It was in the Chinese theater in Hollywood Studios. It ran for an extended period of time from 1989 all the way up to its closure just a couple years ago. So it had a nice long run. And then Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular continues today. Now it has changed form slightly over the years. COVID shutdown in 2020 had a big impact on how that production ran. You no longer have the guests that participate down on the scene, which was one of my favorites. But still a wonderful experience and a very popular show even today. On January 7th, 2008, MGM's partnership with Disney ended. And at that time, Disney renamed the park from Disney's MGM Studios to Hollywood Studios. So it ran for, if I could do my math, almost 19 years as MGM Studios. A lot of people today still call it that. It's one of those names that you just kind of hang on to, but a wonderful park. Now, the theme around around Hollywood Studios, MGM Studios changed over the years. The eventual shift away from a working studio to more of a theme park celebrating cinematic worlds. And so you have things like Galaxy's Edge today that celebrates all of Star Wars and Batuu and all of the things that come along with that. You have Toy Story Land, which celebrates the Pixar series of Toy Stories. Wonderful experiences that still leave you feeling like you're in the movie set, but not quite the original MGM that we once knew. Now you fast forward to today, and in the last couple of years, Hollywood Studios has helped to expand Christmas by offering a separate ticketed event called Jollywood on select nights in November and December. This is the third year of Jollywood coming up. And with anything and everything that Disney does, they will make changes, they will modify, alter. all in the vein of making the experience better than it was the year before. And I think we're all looking forward to see what year three brings for Jollywood. So that's a wrap on the second added park after Epcot from the original park, Magic Kingdom. So now let's think about what the third park was. And I'm sure everyone of you probably said Animal Kingdom. We're coming there. But actually, the third park of the expansion, which would be the fourth park overall, Magic Kingdom, the original, Epcot, the first added park, Hollywood Studios, in today's name, the second added park. The third added park was actually Typhoon Lagoon. It opened just a month after Disney's MGM Studios opened on June 1st, 1989. The idea behind that was that it was a typhoon that blew through and caused mass destruction. There's a boat that sits on top of a volcano. There are surfboards broken and strewn all over the place, giving it the sense and feel of being on a tropical island that was impacted by a typhoon, leaving us with Typhoon Lagoon, the water park. It has one of the world's largest wave pools, and in 2022, it became the world's most popular water park. Fun experience. I've been there a couple times over the years when my kids were younger. We had a wonderful time. It's a great way to cool off, especially if you're there in the summer. All right, so that was the third added park, the fourth park overall. Let's jump to the fourth added park, fifth overall, and you're probably screaming Animal Kingdom. Time out. Hold on. We're still getting there. The fourth added park was Blizzard Beach. So the second water park of the current 2025 landscape. There was another water park, but I'm going to cover that in a different chapter. So Blizzard Beach, the concept there was that a freak, and it would happen to be freak, snowstorm hit all of Florida, creating Florida's first ski resort. Now, I know it can get cold sometimes in Orlando, maybe cold enough for snowflakes to fall, a little bit of snow, but the idea of a snowstorm causing a ski lift or a ski resort is obviously freak, but the theming works great. Park is wonderful. And in 2016, so about 9 years ago, it was the third most visited water park in the world. So pretty amazing when you think that they also had Typhoon Lagoon. Okay, now onto the last added park. So all of those of you that were screaming Animal Kingdom for the last two, this is your opportunity. Animal Kingdom opened on April 22nd, 1998 on Earth Day. In 1995, 3 years prior, it was announced that Disney's Wild Animal Kingdom was going to come. So it was at least, well, probably more than this, but at least 3 years in the planning, building, creating, and then opening of the park from original announcement. The vision was to create a park combining an animal preserve with theme park thrills and educational experiences. I think Disney did a pretty good job of that. From the animal preserve perspective and the educational experiences, you think about Kilimanjaro Safaris, which is one of my favorite attractions in all of Walt Disney World. I could do that multiple times each time we're there. I love it. Then you hop on the train back to Rafiki's Planet Watch, and they have the actual working lab there where veterinarians do checkups on animals and sometimes do procedures on animals. And it's all there with open glass so that you can see in and watch them perform their trait. And a lot of times they'll have a veterinarian or a cast member inside with a microphone and they're actually speaking to the guest outside the glass. They're watching. Sometimes they're answering questions. It's very interactive and absolutely very educational. And then when you think about the thrill park ride side of it, you have things like Expedition Everest, Dinosaur, which at the end of 2025 will become extinct. No pun intended, or maybe it was. You have Flight of Passage, which is one of the most spectacular rides in all of Walt Disney World. So they've hit the mark there. Animal Kingdom is probably, from a attraction perspective, the smallest park at Walt Disney World. From a territorial perspective, it's the largest park. The safari alone could fit the Magic Kingdom in it. So it's amazing how big that territory is. Animal Kingdom is the first of the four main parks that are going through the next phase of evolution. Dino Land is closing down. Most of it has closed already. Dinosaur Ride will close. Restaurantsaurus will close, other things like that at the wrap of 2025 so that the Central Americas Encanto themed can open up later on in 2027. Zootopia is taking over the Tree of Life. The Tough to Be a Bug show has ended, and Zootopia Better Zoogether is opening up in November of 2025. So exciting times there. So there you have it with the additional parks that stand today. There are some parks that Disney opened and in its history that I did not mention, because again, I'll cover those in a different chapter of kind of the lost and forgotten territories of the Walt Disney World property. So, with the expansion of parks came a few other things. Park Hopper, for instance, didn't exist when Epcot Center opened in 1981. It didn't exist when MGM Studios opened in 1989. It did exist when Animal Kingdom opened in 95 and 98, sorry. In 1994, the idea of the park hopper ticket, allowing you to hop from one park to another within the same day, utilizing just one park entry ticket, came to fruition. Before 1994, if you went to Walt Disney World, be able to see Magic Kingdom, Epcot Center, and MGM Studios when it was open, you had to have a ticket for each park. And typically that meant going to one park per day. Most people were not going to use up two park admissions in the same day to go to two parks. So the idea of park hopping that we know and love today, the idea of doing a four-park challenge, all of those things didn't exist in anybody's mind or in practice until 1994. The monorail, that's I think is pretty cool. It existed in 1971 when the Magic Kingdom opened, and it took you from the Ticket and Transportation Center, the TTC, over to the Magic Kingdom. By the time Epcot Center opened in October of 1982, Disney had already built and expanded the monorail track so that at Epcot opening, you could take the monorail from the TTC over to Epcot and back. So it was an opening day transportation mode. And then you fast forward quite a ways, long after all four parks existed, the Skyliner came along in 2019. It has now become one of the most popular modes of transportation, getting guests from some select resorts, specifically Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach Resort, and the Riviera, over to Hollywood Studios and over to Epcot. Guests at the Beach Club, Yacht Club, and Boardwalk can take the Skyliner over to Hollywood Studios as well. One of my favorite modes of transportation. As long as you're not afraid of heights, you get great views of the territory as you're riding from the resorts to the parks or from the parks to the resorts. It's relaxing. You get a nice breeze that blows through at the end of the day. You get to sit down on a bench and relax, just unwind a little bit. So there you have it, the series of new parks that opened after the Magic Kingdom in 1971. Again, on a future chapter, I'm going to talk about the lost and forgotten territories of the Walt Disney World area, which will cover some parks that did exist at one point in time but do no longer exist today. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We do these Park Life podcasts every Monday morning at about 5 a.m. Eastern. We also do Park Life Live, a live Q&A discussion, and we play games on this channel, Park Life Podcast channel on YouTube, as well as on my TikTok channel, Mike_Disney Travel, every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get in touch with me, you can get me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on my YouTube page, Mike_Disney Travel, or on Facebook at Mike's Magical World Vacations. Love to hear from you. Would love to see your comments in the chat here. What do you think about the parks, the secession of the parks, anything you'd like to hear about that I didn't share? Love to hear from you. But that's wrap for today. I'll be back again next week with the next chapter in our series of the history of Walt Disney World. Hope you have a great day, a better day tomorrow, and remember, when you wake up tomorrow, it'll be a great day to be alive. Goodbye, everybody.